So first of all, this is me making this video because I'm about to talk about pretty much my favorite character who I've ever created, and I have created a lot of characters in my life. So I'm developing a fantasy room escape game which is very puzzle focused but also very character focused, and I wanted to take some time to talk about the design process behind each of the characters in this game. Today I'm talking about Professor Ludos. He's a super smart wizard who loves magic, fashion, and conducting scientific research, and he has a psychic ability which lets him read the auras of people and objects around him, as well as essentially see through everything, which will prove to be very useful for some of the puzzles in the game. Oh my gosh, look at him! The name Ludos actually came to me in a dream, which I have to say is quite fitting for him. I had just jotted it down in my notes app one night, and when I was searching for a name for my magically vision-inclined character, I just knew it had to be this one. It fits his vibe perfectly. So Ludos clearly has this sort of ancient Egypt-inspired design, but he actually didn't start out this way at all. His design actually began with a previous game that I was working on while I was in college, but never ended up finishing or releasing, called Into Adventure 2. In Into Adventure 2, there was a nurse character named Alex, and I loved his design, but I never really got to use it since I ended up abandoning the project. So when it came time to design Ludos, I was totally planning on just stealing Alex's design, adding a couple eye motifs to represent Ludos's vision ability, and calling it a day. But I decided to experiment a little more in my sketchbook, and I drew this ancient Egypt-inspired character, which made the cogs in my brain start turning. I've always kind of had this fascination with ancient Egypt, both the real culture and the plethora of fantasy settings inspired by it. Maybe this all started when we spent like an entire year studying it when I was in the 5th grade, but who knows? I just know I once spent 5 hours in the ancient Egypt exhibit at the Met. I took a course on the New Kingdom in college. I had to do the Unity rollerball tutorial for a game design course, and I skinned it like this. And back when I played Genshin Impact, I think I was the only Sino main I had ever personally met. So yeah, it's one of those time periods that really captures my imagination, and once I drew that sketch, I knew that was the direction I wanted to take this character. This was the first digital sketch I did of Ludos. I loved it then, and I still love it now, honestly. I threw some colors on it, and I decided to give him these pale blue eyes with white pupils that are linked to his psychic ability. But of course Ludos is a character in my game, so I had to draw him in a format that would work in the UI. Basically, he had to be able to go right here. So I drew him like this, from the shoulders up. Although Ludos is a professor, he's also a performing magician, so I wanted his look to lean into that and be showy and vibrant. He has this two-toned blue and gold hair. I also gave him bright eye makeup and an eye tattoo, turquoise earrings, and then this turquoise collar to match, which has his eye motif on it. The collar is supposed to be the vessel through which he channels his magic, so I definitely wanted it to be tied in with his psychic vision there. But I felt there was still something off about the design. I thought maybe it looked a bit garish, I guess. Although I wanted Ludos' style to be sort of showman-like, I didn't want it to be tacky. So I desaturated his collar a bit to be more bronze than gold, and I think that helped make it look a bit more majestic rather than costumey. I also shortened and darkened his blue hair to be more of a navy. And ultimately, I ended up flipping the sides of his hair, so the long part is blonde and the short part is navy. And I think it's kind of funny to me because I imagine that Ludos is very fussy about his hair and probably changed his hairstyle multiple times throughout his life, so I feel like that's what I was doing to him while designing him. So once I was happy with that art, I made some more expressions and used it in the game for a while, but for some reason, as I was developing the game using this art, I felt embarrassed by it. I don't really know if that's the right word, but I can't think of how else to describe it. It wasn't that I didn't like the artwork, but first of all, I'd already improved quite a bit as an artist since I created the portrait, and I think I didn't feel like it was the best I could do or something I'd be proud to release with the game, similar to the first pass I did with background art. And second, I had developed Ludos as a character a lot more since I created the portrait, and I felt like it didn't fully capture his essence. I had spent some time at the end of 2025 as well, trying out some new portraits for a different game concept, and I was so happy with how they came out that I was like, I need to redo all the Manifold Mansion character art. So I spent the first few months of 2026 doing exactly that. First, I decided to show more of the character's body because they can be far more expressive that way and show off their personality more. Ludos' default pose is this sort of very professorly thinking pose because despite his vivid and decorative style, he's a very calm individual. He's always measured and observant. He speaks with a quiet voice. He's very polite and well-mannered, although he does certainly like to have fun as well, one of his favorite activities being pranking his friend Elijah. Design-wise, not too much changed from before. I made his blonde hair a bit more unnaturally yellow, as if he bleached it himself and maybe didn't do a perfect job. I also made his eye tattoo bigger, taking inspiration from the Eye of Horus. I was considering putting him in a waistcoat and jacket because I think that's what he'd wear most of the time, like when he's working. But given the plot of the game, I think it makes sense for him to be wearing a costume, like he's about to give a magic performance. He's got on this sleeveless top and a kilt, and then I also gave him a spell book and a charm since he's a wizard and loves to cast spells. And so, after many, many iterations of the design, I was finally satisfied and able to lay myself down to rest. Wishlist my game Manifold Mansion on Steam so you can find out more about Professor Ludos when the game comes out. He'll also be featured in the demo, which comes out even sooner, so make sure the game's on your wishlist so you'll be alerted when it does. In the meantime, I'll be posting more videos on here about the rest of this game's characters. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss them. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate everyone who watches these videos. And I hope you have a beautiful, spectacular day.